2x2, 7 rows deep. And rolling up to the start-finish line. Looks like Asher going a little bit off track as the inside.
As they can. Saber making an amazing dive into turn 1.
And electroshocks off. Eggful gets the move.
But MNU trying to take a move.
Big contact from 5 different punches.
Big incident with Snowdog, our leader.
As we head into turn row, it's a big crash. It's a big crash between the two title contenders.
Welcome one and welcome all. We are here for the series finale here at Simufur GT3, and where else can we be other than Indianapolis, a historic racetrack for home of famous races such as the Indy 500. But today, or tonight, if you're me, we'll be seeing a lot of our Simufur drivers here fighting for championships, even in the finale race here. So, Kady, what do you think about this race?
Yeah, so we mostly have two different places that we're looking at on our leaderboards here. The first is at the very top of our overall standings, where Daniel Taberner and Sauce Dragon have been fighting for this entire season, pretty much. Here's one of them now, I think. But we're just, that is neither of them actually. That is sad cat, because I know what cars are on track right now. But they are the ones that have been fighting at the overall standings basically since the beginning of this. It was a huge swing for Sauce Dragon a couple of races ago with that win at, I believe it was Donington, where Sauce won that race with some with a few incidents from Daniel knocking them out of the race. But it'll be redemption time here for Daniel Taberner. They've been able to retain a lead on the leaderboard despite all of that, but it is a very, very close lead. It is only 2 points between them, so it'll basically be down to whoever wins this race for the top step of our overall podium. And the second place where we're looking, of course, is the top steps of AM as well, where we have a similarly close fight. And for either of those, it'll pretty much be down to whoever finishes in front of the other. It'll be very, very interesting to see, especially during qualifying. Whoever sort of gets out in front, they'll be in the best position to be able to make their case for the gold trophy.
Yeah, and in terms of silver class, we do know that Blade Wolf Kagekiyo has already secured the championship crown since last week of Luna Seca. There they are. That is your silver class championship winner in that Aston Martin. So I'm not sure if this is true. As far as I'm aware, I'm not sure if the fight for second is still on, but I feel like the bridesmaid of Kagekiyo is a race to watch regardless.
Yeah, I mean, we're never not going to get a good drive from Blade Wolf. I think we've seen plenty of their talent just overall across this entire season, whether it's defending fiercely from other cars or, you know, just keeping themselves clean while everybody else on the grid gets shuffled around with incidents and fighting each other. And, you know, they're just able to keep a really level head no matter the situation, no matter the kind of pressure that they're under. And that is the kind of thing that makes champions here at Simufur and in racing in general, as we kick over to our very brief full course yellow practice for the race. Hopefully we don't get one of those here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This is I really can't call this anything other than the Assetto Corsa Competizione configuration of this track, because it is truly unlike any other configuration of this track that we have. The sort of first sector has be the 5, 6, 7 kind of hairpin complex that's replacing the fast chicane that most people at this point are probably familiar with. This is a configuration that was run very briefly in the Intercontinental GT Challenge. There's the chicane right there, but we're not going to take it. We're going to go down here into this hairpin, as Philip Beckevold is showing us right now. Very, very long hairpin, kind of a long double apex here. Could be an overtaking spot, but mostly I think the cars are going to want to filter through single file and not lose too much time. Yeah, it's a combination of that plus the sort of Sector 3 that you might be more familiar with on the modern configuration of the track. So it's a unique one for the drivers to get used to, and especially for Danak here, who is joining us for the last round of this series. So welcome to the team lead of TIG Gang Racing. Hope you have a good one.
Yeah, that is a car I have been missing to see for a while now. You know, it's really hard to imagine a race without the 54 for myself occasionally, because we've had some interesting battles over the years, and it's great to see Danak back on the grid. It's great to see him in the action. I am looking forward to seeing how he stacks up compared to the others.
And maybe could be a spoiler for our overall fight, honestly. You know, any cars that are separating Sosh and Daniel Taverner from each other, I think, could end up throwing a wrench into their fight. They would much rather, I'm sure, just be fighting each other directly, maybe disappear off into the distance, not have to worry about the other cars around them, and basically just worry about the traffic and each other. That's the way that both of them would want that to go. But you know, no plan survives first contact with lap 1 is what I'll say. And you know, here at Indianapolis, we've been talking briefly pre-broadcast about the chances of any potential incidents here. I feel like turn 1 is probably our best chance at it, considering that you get funneled in there a little bit, especially with that very, very high curb on the outside. That's a feature of this track that you'll see at certain locations, especially in the slower speed corners. Those very, very high, they're almost sausages, but not quite. But they're very upsetting to the car's suspension, and they're sort of meant to be a deterrent to track cuts at specific key areas around the laps. So, you know, there's one of those at turn 1. There's one of those at the end of that long straight, that long sort of, I would call it the back straight between 7 and 8, sort of on the apex of turn 8. There's one of those as well. So, you know, could potentially be a site for some incidents, but we'll see.
They may not be sausages, but they sure as hell can still launch a car. Anyways, looking over the standings, we have Sauce Dragon, who currently has points lead here, but Daniel Taverner trailing behind by 2 points, and Nicholas Zahn right behind, topping your top 3 in the overall standings. In terms of the gold class, however, it might be a different case. Let's take a look into the gold standings as we pan over to Daniel Taverner, who ultimately has the lead in the gold standing, which I feel this is more important to them, but getting top honors will be very great for them. So Taverner has a lot to gain out of this race. Coming into silver, however, we have mentioned before, Label Kagekio is your locked-in champion. So the fight is now between Jesper Swingley, RS Volpes, and Sadcat for who will get in the top 3. As for our AM class standings, let's take a look over to our drivers in red. We have Luis Gordon with a slight margin above George Sarami, and JPEG Fox right behind in P3, but Cooper Otter might throw a wrench into JPEG Fox, so JPEG has to defend that top 3 position.
Yeah, I think it would probably have to be a pretty bad race for JPEG to not hold on to that position in particular. I'm not sure exactly how many AMs we have on the field today, which definitely does affect it increases the floor of sort of the minimum amount of points that you're allowed to score. That is, by the way, the reason why Blade Wolf has already locked in the silver championship. They cannot possibly score a number of points today that would prevent them from ending up with the top honors. So yeah, 2 points between these two, and of course if we get into a position where it's a tie for that top spot, it will kick over to the number of overall wins. I think the only situation in which we would have a tie involves some combination of both of those drivers not winning this race. So they would be at 2 wins for Daniel and 1 win for Sash, of course, in Donington. So the trophy in that case would go to Daniel. So just another little bit of insurance there for Daniel heading into this round. So despite being in second place, actually really not in a terrible spot to take this one, but just has to make sure that they don't have any sort of issues with this one.
Yeah, I feel like technical issues will be Taverner's worst nightmare here. Remembering Donington Park, they had the race in their hands. Unfortunately, network issues saw them retire from the race. So hopefully we don't see another problem like that. I feel like Indianapolis will be a better state for them, especially considering the times right now, which I believe Daniel Taverner is ahead of Soft Dragon, but ahead of the both of them is Nicholas Zahn.
Yeah, really, really interesting to see that as well. Again, Nicholas Zahn does have an outside shot at this championship, but I think both Daniel and Sash would have to finish fairly low down the order for that to happen. It's not impossible for sure, especially if you include incidents in the mix. But I think just on pure pace alone, even if they do manage to get ahead, then it would have to be something out of their control would have to go their way for them to be able to actually make a decent case for the top spot there. But regardless, they are looking to be a fairly good lock for that P3, barring, of course, anything that happens in this race, which we'll see. It's definitely, Indianapolis, it can be tough sometimes. Not a lot of super great overtaking spots. You have turn 1, you have turn 8, and outside of that, it's a lot of really strange sweepers that don't offer a whole lot of room for anything super creative. 13 can sometimes be a spot if you can get enough of an overlap. So just anything slow speed that you can get side by side and sort of make a case for racing room. That's going to be your best bet to move forward in the order as we see the AMs take the track for the first 10 minutes of our qualifying here.
Right, the AMs are rolling out. As we look over, this is one of them. I believe this was Racing Mango. This is indeed Racing Mango. A lot of the White Point cars rolling out, and as always, quite the number of White Point fans I'm looking over in chat. So they definitely got all the support from our live feed, so they're the ones to look forward to. Unfortunately, they aren't in the title fight, and the likes of Luis Gordon, Joy Sarami, and JPEG Fox are the ones to look forward to in this race, and how the top 3 will stack in the AM standings.
Right, exactly. Definitely have to look out for track limits as well on this qualifying. There are certain places where it's very, very easy to stick a wheel out as you're trying to get just as much of a run as you can, especially through the sweepers and through the sort of mid-speed corners where there's a lot of asphalt on the inside of those corners. You want to sort of try to see if you can stick your wheels inside and just make sure that you can open it up as much as you can. But here we go for our first lap of Indy qualifying. We have some marker boards up here, but from what I've been seeing from the braking, you want to brake a little bit before those start, and here they go. So that's at the 400 board right there into turn 1, nice and tidy. Maybe missing the apex a little bit there, I couldn't quite tell. A little bit of a lift for turn 2, but then you're into this turn 3. It's very, very grip limited here. You want to track it out to the outside curve as much as you can, and then another dab on the brakes down to second through to here, and then if you were following that chicane, you would be going over the right side to set for that one, but you're sticking over to the left here so that you can set up for the double apex here of this hairpin of turn 6. Very, very, very long corner. You just want to balance the car on the throttle, and then another lift, maybe a little bit of a brake onto here. And you have a lot more runoff here than you think you do. A little bit of a wiggle of the wheel there from Racing Mango there, but manages to keep the car tidy. No real brake markers here, but you want to use that exit road off to the side. That's where you kind of want to start thinking about braking. and into the apex there. Again, watching for that curve on the outside, and then through the mid-speed corners here. This is where you can lose a lot of time potentially if you don't get your line exactly right, and then getting in on the inside of that curve out onto this little mini straight here. You're back onto the oval, running the opposite of the way that they would for the Indy 500, and you're looking for your braking marker into the slow speed turn 13 here into this final sort of sector 3, and again this very, very long corner here, missing that apex as well, and then you're back out onto the oval once again. And grip limited here, you definitely want to be careful when you're transitioning from the road course onto the oval. It can upset the suspension a little bit if you're not careful and crossing the line. That will be our first lap from Racing Mango, and it's 136.630 from them.
Yeah, so far Mango's got the lead, but a lot of these drivers, a lot of these times will be tumbling down. But at the moment, I do want to say the characteristics of the circuit is pretty much why I like this track. Besides that, that's actually because normally in iRacing you skip turns 5 to 7. It's turn 5 is a chicane. It's much faster coming into that chicane, but regardless, the Indianapolis circuit is very unique compared to a lot of the tracks in this ACC calendar. It provides quite a different racing experience because you're racing on part of a oval track, and I feel like that'll pay dividends, especially in high-speed stuff.
Right, it is the only roval in this game, isn't it? It's the only oval road course, so yeah, it definitely creates an interesting profile for the rest of the track. I know a lot of people sometimes tend to complain about these road course layouts. Sometimes they feel a little bit arbitrary, but I think this one tends to be fairly well designed. I know that not a lot of people are a super huge fan of that hairpin, and that is sort of the reason why I think it's been retired in recent years, and they sort of stick to that faster chicane, which also tends to be a little bit of a pain point sometimes for multi-class as well, which of course is where a lot of racing on this track tends to happen. You have the 6 hours for the IMSA race, and I think Intercontinental GT ends up here sometimes as well. But regardless, we have Niklas Fustinish, who of course is one of the newer names that we've had in this championship, and has actually made quite a name for themselves in the last few races. I remember being here in Donington and just seeing a really, really good performance put out from this car, especially in qualifying, getting really, really far up there, and today is no exception. They're at a 35.1, that is almost a full second ahead of Racing Mango's previous best, who sits in second, so nobody has been able to touch them remotely at this point.
Yeah, at the moment it's a white point racing 1, 2, 3, but be careful because George Sarami on a charge right now, trying to beat those three. Well, of course, they're one of the championship contenders. They're contending with Lewis Gordon, so they do want to stay ahead of them as much as they can. But as far as I'm aware, I don't think Lewis Gordon is racing, so it's up to Sarami to get as much points as possible. It could be their day.
Yeah, I don't see her on track. I do have to wonder sort of what that means for.
Oh wait,
and that's a moment off into the grass. That's very, very easy to do, by the way. On the exit of that corner as you're heading out onto the oval, you just want to try to see if you can get on the power as much as you can at any point of this track that gets you remotely in a straight line. That's of course not really a straight, but it ends up being one just because of the banking on that oval. So just getting a little bit greedy on the throttle there, and yeah, that's very, very easy to do. Oliver Renfield up to P5 now in that Mustang, the number 65, has a minute 37 on the board right now. And here comes Fluffy around the final corner now as well, P11 for them, for the White Point Racing 39 Ferrari, and that will be up to P5 for them, displacing Renfield by about a 1/10 of a second, maybe a little bit less even.
I just made a realization about Lewis Gordon. So I forgot that it was their birthdays, and they're celebrating at the Nürburgring. So definitely a great, yeah. That's definitely a fun way to celebrate. You know, happy birthday, Luis! And I hope you're enjoying it out there. And they're watching here right now, and yeah.
Fantastic. You know, if I had to choose between being in Indianapolis or at the Nürburgring, I think I know what I would pick. So, yeah, happy birthday to you, and great to see you in the chat as well. What do we have here going on for qualifying? Nobody's on a particularly fantastic improvement right now. We only have about 1 minute and 30 seconds left, so anybody crossing the line right now, this will probably be their last attempt, as they only have 10 minutes left to go. But so far, yeah, nobody has been able to touch Fusenich, like not even remotely. It's a .975 gap between them and Racing Mango there in P2, so that is a very, very solid gap right there. Quite a statement, as we've seen from qualifying in the past from Fusenich, the 330 Ferrari doing very, very well for themselves in this class. Unfortunately, not really in the conversation for the championship, as they were joining late, but if they were, then I can only imagine that you know, they would be quite far up there at this point. Who do we have for our contenders? So George Cerami there in P4, behind all of the white point cars, as you said, and Cooper Otter as well, I think also in the conversation. The 97 BMW there in P7 right now will want to improve on that one if they are able to.
Yeah, George Cerami at the moment P4, behind all but one white point car. That is Fluffy White Point, who is in the pit lane. So that is qualifying session done for them. But Fusenich on another charge, so is Mango. So there's still a lot of time to be gained, but unfortunately, Cerami not finding the time they want. But at this moment, if I was in Cerami's shoes, I know my opponents are away. You know, Luis having a great time for sure out in the Nürburgring in real life. So if I was in Cerami's shoes, I would just cruise in peace, because I'm not sure how the points go, but if those are important points for Cerami, then I think it will be important to just stay to the finish line.
Right, exactly. I think it's definitely going to be a case of slow and steady for them as they're getting up here. Low risk race for them for sure. We just got the notification from Race Control that anybody on a lap in AM should be finishing their laps and then getting back to the pits. So this will be a final attempt for everybody here, but it looks to be very much a locked-in pole position for Niklas Fusenich up there with a 135.1. That will most likely be good enough to get them well up the order, as there's a bit of styrofoam on the thankfully not on the track, but just there off to the side. That's not a particularly useful marker board, I don't think. So if you're going to take one out, that one's not a bad one to do. But here's Proto-Nutagen finishing their lap, and we'll be getting back. That'll be P10 for them in class, the 621 Porsche there. So yeah, so it'll be Niklas Fusenich lining up alongside Racing Mango in the AM class, or hopefully alongside. We'll see what happens with the rest of the qualifying 20 minutes here, if there are any cars that split them. And then it's Sapphire in P3 with that Ferrari. The Ferrari's looking pretty strong at this track so far.
Yeah, normally we haven't seen much Ferraris, but unusually today we have quite a number of Ferraris. You know, the three white point cars. I'm not sure if you finished white point, but we do have quite a number of Ferraris today compared to last time. And at the moment, right now, the silvers are making their way out on track. And looking at the timing, I think there's one Ferrari. There it is. That's another Ferrari over there. So Ferraris just came out of nowhere, you know?
Yeah, you know, if it's a good track for them, then yeah, I mean, go ahead. I couldn't tell you why it's a good track for them. There's a lot of straight line sections of this track, so that could be playing a factor. I'm not sure particularly how this balance of performance, this particular configuration of the power and ballast is treating the rest of the field at this point. Of course, here at Simufur, we usually have pretty good car variety, and it tends to be pretty even between the classes. But yeah, for whatever reason, the Ferraris are really enjoying it out here in Speedway, Indiana today, as we get onto Sadket in the Lambo Evo 2. We didn't have any of these qualifying in AM, so this will be the first time out for these mid-engine V8s. We'll see if they're able to do okay.
I want to correct you that that's a mid-engine V10.
I was just thinking that.
The mid-engine V8's on the Temerario, which is a new GT3 car, the successor of the Huracan, but it's great to see the Huracan racing here. You know, I really miss the roar of that V10 engine as Sadcat brings it into the checkered flag. I believe this is this is a qualifying lap, and they are P4 on the grid. That is 1.3 seconds down on Fusionage. So Fusionage still pulling a solid time. So is Sapphire, but how do we say this name? Leonard Holvedel just got P2 by 0.05 of a second.
That is, yeah. Again, you know, Fusionage continues, you know, and we've seen this before in other qualifying. Just the longer that they stay up there, the more impressive that lap time tends to look. But yeah, Holvedel here, yeah, looking quite good in that Ferrari as well. So it's now a Ferrari front row as it stands right now, and George Cerami as well finds themselves both in P7 overall and also surrounded by silvers, which could throw a little bit of a wrench into their race when the lights go out later on. You definitely, you know, being around a lot of cars that aren't in your class, you're not necessarily racing, it can get a little bit strange with sort of the on-track negotiation that you have to do. You know, trying to figure out, you know, whether you want to get around, if your pace is similar enough that you feel like you don't want them to hold you up, or if you just want to let them have their own battle and, you know, stay out of it. Again, as much as George Strami can keep their nose clean, I think that's going to be the name of the game for them today as we take a look at Holvedel heading around the final sector of this racetrack right now. Missing the apex of turn 13 there by not too much. Shouldn't have affected their line too much. That sausage, of course, is pretty intimidating, so I imagine probably a lot of drivers, especially on their banker laps, are going to want to avoid that one. I'm not sure if getting onto the oval there, if that was close to an off-track. I know in iRacing, if you really try to open up that opening onto the oval as much as you can sometimes start to get off tracks there if you're crossing sort of that little triangle of white lines that separate the road course from the oval. I'm not sure if it applies the same here, but that looked to be a valid lap.
Yeah, Holvedel still tried to pull a lap that will beat Fusionage. Those are two solid lap times. I don't think any of the silvers are going to get close. The fastest we have is Sadcat, who is currently 7/10 down and only a few hundreds behind Racing Mango. So here's Jax Wilson, one of the silver class drivers that's returning. They go by the name Eggful in previous races. So the Mustang currently, I think, yeah, they are second to last in this. I mean the BMW. I'm looking at the wrong car. All I see, yeah, Jax Wilson in the BMWs that originally second to last makes their way up to the middle of the field. So there's a lot of ground to cover for sure.
Yeah, a lot of ground to cover, but that does put them ahead of Fluffy Whitepoint as well as Renfield and Cooper Otter as well, who we definitely, you know, has had some really good races here, you know, in the past. I remember their Donington round being, you know, a particularly solid performance for them. Sadcat up to P3 now, right behind Holvedel. That's going to be still a half a second between them, so I guess I shouldn't say not right behind. But critically, that does put quite a bit of distance between Fusionage and Mango now in P4. And as well, you know, Mango 2 places down to Sapphire down in P7. So the White Point cars starting to get quite a bit separated from each other by the rest of these silvers, which we've seen a lot of intermixing in this class before, and today is absolutely no exception. The way that the practice has gone, the way that the qualifying has gone, and this is going to be the last couple of attempts for them. I think that was a car pulling off to get into the pits. If I wasn't mistaken, that was Charter there getting back into the pits. Maybe we'll have time for one more good lap, I think, just taking all the fuel out of that one, getting fresh tires, and just seeing what they can do. But here comes Sierra Thomas around the final corner now, getting nice and tidy through that oval section there, getting pretty close to the wall as well. We have a yellow flag waving there. I'm not sure what that's about, but that's Sierra Thomas up into P17 ahead of a couple of AM cars. I think that might have actually been their first valid lap time of the session.
Yeah, Sierra Thomas, as far as I observed, they've normally qualified near or in the back of silver class, but but Sierra Thomas makes up for it in race pace, and they've done a lot of clean racing, so I feel like Thomas will make up a lot of ground and try to pick off on drivers having moments. But looking over to Halvedel, they are on the final corner. They're on a huge improvement, 6/10 actually, and that will promote them up into P1 pole position by 5/10. So Fusionist's lap time has been dethroned, and it's only 1 minute to go until our gold drivers come out for qualifying.
Yeah, it was fun while it lasted, but yeah, that's a over a half a second gap between them now, and that is absolutely going to be more than enough for Holvedel, at least for now, to secure that pole position. That's a 134.6 right now, and again, as many cars as they can get in between them and their competition, that will be for sure a boon to them for the rest of their race coming up here. Here's Jax Wilson heading around the final sector now. In that BMW, which I'm not sure how well these have been doing, at least so far. Maybe looking just a little bit boaty in the slow speed stuff, at least from what I'm seeing on the onboards and our offboards as well. But the 79 BMW crossing the line, that will not be an improvement for them. So yeah, 40 seconds left on this qualifying. I think they can technically go around one more time, but we just got the 1 minute warning from race control as well. So anybody looking to cross the line right now should be wrapping up their laps.
Yeah, Sadcat here on an improvement by around 3/10. Unfortunately, that won't be enough for them to get into the front row. But at the moment, Sadcat has got solid footing to fight for. I believe, I'm not sure if it was Sadcat, but it might be Swiggy, but Sadcat could be in the running to spoil any surprise, spoil any of these drivers when it comes to fighting for the runner-up silver champion. As I'm hearing that the gold and golden pro driver split has already been released, so we're expected to see a lot of those drivers come out of pit lane at once.
Yeah, we should. Clear air here for Sadcat, though, who is not on an improvement at the moment. Actually, nobody is on a particularly good improvement as it stands right now. RS is up on their lap, but marginally. They're sort of bouncing back and forth between being up and being down on the lap that they're on. That looked to be a pretty tidy turn 8 there from Sadcat. Got maybe a little bit of time from that. And yeah, collecting quite a bit of dirt there, I think, on the exit of, what would that be? That would be turn 10 there, I believe. So that might have slowed them down a little bit. They're about 4/10 down heading into the final corner here. Not too many opportunities to make up time, so I think that will probably be it for them. And in fact, it does kind of look like they're bailing out of this lap as well. They're 6/10 down now, and RS as well, marginal on it. Yep, and there's Sadcat back into the pits. So here we go for the pros and the golds. We're following along with Parker Olsen, that TGR McLaren 720S. We've seen get into some pretty high positions before in this championship, so we'll have to see. And there's yet more abuse being given to the styrofoam there on the entrance of turn 13. A lot of drivers finding themselves going wide there, maybe a little bit ambitious on the brakes.
Yeah, I wanna say rest in peace to those styrofoam bollards who sacrificed their lives for our entertainment, and condolences to their family. Anyways, Parker Olsen on a lap right now, Philip Beckfeld on a lap right now. So a lot of these pro gold drivers, those times, may I remind you, they won't be good on first impression. But remember, the tires are gonna get warmer, and their fuel load is gonna get lighter, and there's gonna be more rubber on track. So a lot of these lap times are going to tumble down, and then eventually we might have drivers piercing lap times like those of Hovedel, who's like 5/10 away from the next driver. So they currently hit a 134. So that's definitely a high bar to beat.
Yeah, we didn't see too much better in practice, not even from the pros and the golds, so definitely That will be a very, very strong lap time for them, should put them well into the top 10. But Parker Olsen rounding out sector, I want to call this sector 2. I don't know exactly where the lines are, but to me, I feel like this sector ends kind of at the exit of this corner here as you're heading onto the oval section. So you have just this one little straightaway here, and then a couple of corners, and then you back out onto the oval for the final part of the lap. That's where I would consider it. And yeah, you can see the cars starting to just flirt a little bit more with the edge of that curbing off on turn 13 there. Parker Olsen looking fairly comfortable with this lap, at least so far. And again, keeping it nice and tidy heading onto there. Not really playing around too much with the wall, but this tends to be a banker lap, and that is our first pro time, and it's a 1:37 flat, so they should definitely go better than that. And Philip Vekkevold as well with a 36.7, so I would expect both of those times to get better as the session goes on. As you said, the rubber is coming in. And Nicholas Zahn, there's a key lap time for us there just to see what's going on. A 36.3 from them, and then immediately afterwards a 36.1 from Danak, who is joining us for this last one. That'll put them into P6. And then Christian Klipper, the other TGR Mercedes, behind by just a couple of tenths with or just 1/10 rather, with 36.2. So it's getting really, really tight in the midfield now.
Yeah, but at the moment, those times have not pierced Holvidel's lap times. I do want to mention the sectors are actually, the end of Sector 1 is actually before Turn 7, and the end of Sector 2 is actually I believe that's turn 12, just connecting the infield and the oval. As you see, Daniel Taberner, one of the title favorites here. At the moment, they don't have a representative lap time that'll be putting them at the front. They still got ground to cover compared to the likes of Sauce Dragon and Nicholas on. No, it's actually Sauce Dragon and Daniel Taberner who don't have lap times yet. So at the moment, they're just ramping up, trying to get those tires up to condition and trying to get the optimal lines around here. Apologies if I'm stuttering a little. I'm a little stuffed up, but anyways, Daniel Taberner coming into the final corner here, going as wide as they can, getting as much top speed. Could this be a lap time that'll topple everyone else? That is gold position, gold class pole position. That's Nicholas Zahn dethroning that lap time immediately. So at the moment, it's Zahn and Taberner in the front row of the gold class, but none of these times have pierced the likes of Sadkit, Fusionist, and Hovidel.
Yeah, not at all. And it was just a hair's breadth away between the two of them, at least so far. It's a 4.65 from Nicholas Zahn and a 4.77 from Daniel Taberner, so just a few thousandths of a second separating those two cars by the end of the lap. And yeah, I mean, we were already seeing from that onboard as we are taking a look at what Sauce Dragon is going to be able to do heading into the final couple of corners now. That Mustang looking just a little bit uncomfortable in the slower speed stuff, it's looking like, but just taking as much of the track limits as they can. I wanted to point out just how close Daniel Taberner was, just a couple of millimeters it looked like away from the edges of the track. We'll have Sauce Dragon cross the line and see what they can do right now. That looks to be P20 for them right now, so that's a 37 flat. That was the best time that we were seeing, from the likes of Parker Olsen before they were really ramping up. So maybe a little bit of a minor mistake on that lap, but they should definitely be able to get something better. Speaking of somebody getting something better, that's Nicholas Zahn, who is up almost a half a second on their previous lap time. So just building up a little bit more insurance between them and Daniel Taberner, who I didn't really expect this heading into this race, but it's looking like Nicholas Zahn is making a really good case for pole position, at least for right now. Daniel Taberner is not improving on this lap, and that is up to P2 for Nicholas Zahn, up to the front row with a 34.9, our only other time today to enter the 34s.
Yeah, Nicholas Zahn entering the front row alongside Hovidel, but they're still 3/10 under. There's still a lot of time to be gained for sure for Zahn, but Hovidel's put on quite a strong performance to be staying on pole position for that long. But it's only like 2 minutes remaining, which I believe is around 1 to 2 laps. Around 2 laps or more or less until the qualifying session is over. But Zahn still not yet within the 3/10s that they need to get overall pole position. But if I was in Zahn's shoes, I just don't have to worry about the fight there, you know. I'm well ahead of the rest of the gold drivers, but I still got to keep the pace up because these drivers are going to continue to topple down the lap times. And I feel like passing Hovedel could help them in the championship fight, you know, especially having a car between them and the rivals. So, yeah, placement will be very important here, that's for sure.
Yeah, placement will be absolutely critical. Sauce Dragon continuing to ramp up on the times. They just put in a 36 flat, and they were up briefly on that. May have been a minor mistake through Sector 1, but yeah, so far Sauce just not looking comfortable the way that we've seen them so far as of right now in at this track. And I know that you know, it takes some time to find a rhythm, but you better be finding it pretty soon, because this is going to be your last lap if you're crossing the line right now, or you know, if you're able to go very, very fast, you might be able to get on with, you know, just a few seconds to spare. But Danak here has broken into the top 10, is looking for that improvement that they need. Christian Klippert has supplanted them up further in the top 10. They're up to P6 right now, and also further improving. Daniel Taberner is not improving either on this lap, just a 10th maybe in it for them, but nowhere near the sort of 3/10 or so that we would need to see from them to get up to the likes of Nicholas Zahn up there in P2. So it's definitely looking like this is going to be a really interesting landscape for our hour of racing today in terms of the championship. Here comes Sauce Dragon across the line one more time. I don't think this is going to be an improvement, but they will have one more shot at it if they have more fuel in the car to be able to go around one more time. They don't look to be backing out of it right now. So I guess regardless of whether they have fuel in that car or not, they are going to try it.
Yeah, Sauce Dragon is in danger right now as we head on boards with them at the moment. Sauce Dragon, like, they got a lot to gain on Sector 1 coming into Turn 4, I believe, into the kink of Turn 5, and it's a long left-hander into Turn 6. Getting that Mustang slowed down is quite tricky. It's really slow there. I feel like that's where the Mustang is struggling, in those long and slow speed corners. It's a powerhouse. It's not a corner house. As this is where the Mustang shines, putting the power down, coming into, I believe that is Turn 8 coming up, the 90-degree left-hander, hard braking. Get as tight as possible. A bit of a snap of what we received from Sauce Dragon as they tried to get that Mustang tamed into the chicane, which again, I don't think pays dividends for the Mustang. It's more of a powerhouse as they power down into turn, I believe that's Turn 12, entering the oval course, and hard braking into another 90-degree right-hander, but goes very wide. I think that's invalidated their lap time, and that is game over for Sauce Dragon in qualifying.
So, your overall championship leader in P14 now at the moment, and there is 9 cars in between them and their competition. So that will be absolutely a journey of recovery here for Sauce Dragon getting into this one. But yeah, it's you really, really hate to see, yeah, and it might be more cars in between them as of right now. I don't think this is going to be an improvement for Daniel Taberner. They're still down to 10th, but I think that they can breathe just a little bit easier now. But being in qualifying and just feeling a snap that you know might have just cost you a chance at a championship is just, it has to be absolutely brutal for Sauce Dragon. And yeah, we were seeing on that onboard how much work that they were having to do with the wheel, how much that that Mustang was just pushing through the corners. The understeer on that one just not looking very good for that front engine machine, and that's going to earn them a 14th position. So how do you feel now?
I mean, I had trouble breathing throughout the qualifying. It was just tricky to watch, not only because of my congestion, but damn, that was just an intense qualifying session, you know. And I got a feel for Sauce Dragon, you know. They're quite a long way down there, and they got a lot of ground to make up for it. But you know, it's racing. Anything could happen. Sauce Dragon could recover. Anything could happen. Something could happen to Tamer. Something could happen to Zahn. But I do want to point out on the final dying moments that Danak Kalmari put themselves in P3 when it comes to the gold and pro split. So they're definitely in to screw. How do you say? Throw a wrench into their plans or something?
Yeah, definitely could be. I mean, depends on how hard that they want to fight for the for that P4 right there. And Daniel Taverner again, we were just talking about that it's going to be a slow race and a race of survival for George Strami down there and Am just to secure their place in the championship. It's going to be the exact same thing for Daniel Taverner. I think it would be very, very difficult at this stage, barring anything particularly crazy happening, to get Sosh Dragon up into a position where they're even able to think about bringing the fight to that Lamborghini as of right now. And again, based on the pace that we've seen on this track so far, I wouldn't really put my money on it, being able to fight super effectively in that one. I think it would have to be quite a bit of mistakes from Daniel or some kind of incident to get them back up there.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to pay for in this championship fight race as the drivers start to grid up. Anything could happen, as I said before, and turns 1 to 3, I all I can say is those are very interesting corners when it comes to opening laps. I've had my fair share of having opening lap incidents here in Indianapolis once. I believe that was season 4, a long way back when I was driving a Lamborghini. Anyway, but yeah, turns 1 to 3, it's gonna be chaos.
Right, on the racing line, you want to take just as wide a line as you can and get really, really close to the wall. We were seeing drivers getting very close to this wall, especially here in Sector 3, throughout the qualifying hour, just seeing how much they wanted to skirt it. But yeah, it's definitely very narrow there with the way that 90-degree turn 1 works. But yeah, we'll see how it goes here as we take you to the grid walk.
Here we go. Starting on pole position is actually a silver class driver. That's Lionel Hovedel. Correct that. That is White Point Racing in the number 4 Ferrari, starting alongside Nick Lazon, one of our championship favorites here in the number 46 Cabal Sim Sports. Starting alongside another Ferrari in P3. That is Niklas Fusinich, who I believe is another White Point car in the number 330. In P4, we have another title contender. We have Daniel Taverner in the number 83 Racing Team Echo Lamborghini. P5, Dana Calmari in the number 54 Tig Gang Racing Ferrari. So it's a Ferrari 135s. And then we have P6, which is another Lamborghini right behind Taverner. That is Sadcat in the number 13. P7, we have Danak's teammate Christian Clipper in the number 236 Tig Gang Racing Mercedes, starting alongside Philip Veckevold in the number 81 Cabal Sim Sports Porsche. We have another Tig Gang Racing car. We have Mirsky Lohi, the number 935 Tig Gang Racing Nissan GTR. And rounding off our top 10, another Tig Gang car, that is the number 15 of Fossi Tigris. P11, we have Yap Jin Tech of Like Too Fast in the number 26 Porsche, starring alongside the White Point Racing McLaren, number 45 of Racing Mango. P13, we have Aras Volpez in the number 406 Lamborghini, starting alongside Sosh Dragon, who is, I believe, that is definitely a position they don't want to be in that number 73 Confused Mustang. P15, we have Parker Olson in the number 74 Tig Gang Racing McLaren, starting alongside our silver class champion, Blade Wolf Kagekiyo, in the number 142 Lycan Racing. I feel like they'll be doing a lot of cruising for sure. P17, we have Arioch Sapphire in the number 36 Ferrari, starting alongside number 79 BMW of Jax Wilson. And rounding off our top 20 is P19 Jesper Swingley in the number 279 Garage 42 Porsche, starting alongside their teammate in another Garage 42 Porsche. That is one of the AM class championship contenders, George Sarabi in the number 212. P21, we have Charter in another Garage 42 car in that number 24 Lamborghini, starting alongside Matti Hoheisel in the number 76 White Point BMW. P23, we have Fluffy White Point in that White Point Racing number 39 Ferrari, starting alongside Oliver Redfield in the number 65 Works Mustang. P25, we have Cooper Otter in the number 97 BMW, starting alongside P26 is Tokyo Ghost Racing's number 5 McLaren, Manuel Benavides. P27, we have Sierra Thomas of the number 42 racing team Echo Mustang starting alongside the number 621 Nice White Point Racing by Proto Nutagen. P29, we have Coda Wolf in the number 78 Garage 42 GTR, and rounding off our grid is the number 12 of JPEG Fox.
Yeah, well, here we go then on our outlap. You can already see, I think, you know, some cars where we have collision off, of course, for our outlap, but you know, cars trying to just filter through their single file. It's really not a place where, you know, you're going to lose a lot of time if you're on the outside there. So I would expect definitely a little bit of chaos towards turn one, especially if folks start you know, missing their braking points, maybe getting a little bit too ambitious. But it is a long run up to P1 here. You have essentially, you know, most of the run of the front stretch of the oval here, of course going the opposite direction of the way that they go on the regular oval. But it is a long run to turn one, so if you're behind and you can pick up a slipstream from up in front, that can give you a pretty good look into turn one potentially, you know, depending on how you want to play it. But yeah, we didn't really mention it too much during our qualifying, but yeah, congratulations to Holvedel there for the pole position. You know, despite being in the silver class, a very, very strong performance from them, and you know, potentially upsets Nicholas Zahn a little bit, who's going to have to start on the outside for this one. The odd numbers getting the inside line for turn one, which is of course the more advantageous line. But here we go, 2x2. We're going to be getting onto the oval in just a moment here. The car's trying to warm up their tires as much as possible, you know, getting into the right window as we get rolling towards the start. And yeah, take a look at all those Ferraris there on the inside line there. That's what we've been seeing for basically the rest of this you know, practice and qualifying.
Well, the home stretch is going to be very interesting coming into turn one. That is one of the hot zones. Anyways, here comes the finale race of the Simufur GT3 series. We're waiting for the green flag to wave.
Green light. Give it all you
And we're underway here in Indianapolis. It's a great start for Holvedel, but Nicholas Zahn on a charge. Holvedel going on the outside, trying to block off Zahn, but at the moment, they got quite a solid lead as they come into turn one. It's going to be chaos in the mid-pack as a lot of drivers are going 3 wide, but at the moment, everyone is coming off clean. I think so far so good for here. As we see Christian Clifford going wide, it's going to be a lot of kerfuffle. There's a lot of dirt being kicked up, so there might be some chaos, but overall, I feel like, yeah, everyone's come off just fine. But no, that's Fossey! That was Fossey Tigris spinning out into the grass, so... yeah, as far as I'm aware, that was Fossey Tigris out and went back in racing, but yeah, that's a price you pay if there's chaos here in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I was about to say, it looked like a really, really great start for them through the first couple of quarters, and I don't know if you can do a commentator's curse just by thinking something, but it seemed like maybe that's what happened. We're still trying to sort out the back of this field as it stands now. The cars go filtering through 2x2 into turn 8, and these two still side by side. This is Jesper Swingley and Cooper Otter there in the BMW trying to hold them off, and looks to be doing it, at least for right now. A lot of dirt being kicked up as the cars are just trying to jockey for as much space as they can get, and that's Jesper Swingley having to filter in alongside. There's Oliver Renfield off the track as well. That'll put them well behind the rest of the field, at least 6 seconds away. But look at the charge from Sauce Dragon. They're up into P9 now, so that was the absolute dream start that they needed here, just to try to make up as much progress as they could, and they still have quite a few cars to get through. Daniel Tabner, of course, up to P3 from 4th on the grid, so there's a lot fewer cars between them, but both of them making up a little bit of space here as Nicholas Fusenich is looking to make up another one here to get onto the overall podium. An AM driver here on the overall podium as it stands right now and getting around Daniel Tabner. So once again, fewer cars between the two of them. It's now between Sauce Dragon and P8, who has made up a place on Racing Mango. So both drivers just moving through the field very, very rapidly right now in opposite directions. They're coming back together like magnets.
Yeah, but so far it's Holvedel with a solid lead, but we got quite the kerfuffle here between Sauce Dragon, Lohi, and Olsen. Two Tikan cars, but I believe Sauce Dragon just got past No, Sauce Dragons dropped down. They're down in P11. So I wonder what happened, but Sauce Dragon, trying to make up as much ground as possible, now has to deal with the two Gang drivers who are fighting, coming into this left-hander, but it's Olsen on the outside, getting past their teammates, staying ahead, and that'll solve their fight. But Bladewolf Kagakiyo, and I believe that is just for Swingley. Kagakiyo not in this fight, so all they have to do is relax, but nope, that was, never mind, that was Sarami, I believe, the yellow Garage 22 Porsche, but I don't think that's the race they need. They gotta keep it clean, especially knowing that they have a championship in hand right now.
Yeah, absolutely doing all right so far. That's the fastest lap of the race from Hull Fatal, by the way, at 35.4. They are 1.7 seconds up the road from Nicholas Hahn, so exactly the start that they would have wanted as well. And it's looking also like Fusinish is dropping off the back of them as well, so that's our podium pretty well cemented as of right now, but Daniel Taverner is looking to get back into that conversation as well, side by side here for Fluffy Whitepoint, who has a pretty good look at this fight going on in front of them. That's Jesper Swingley up there right in front of them, and yeah, again, more dirt being kicked up as cars get into the grass, get into the dirt, and are just trying to look for any sort of advantage that they can get.
Dive.
That was a great dive there from Hoheisel, it looks like, or the White Point Ferrari, just getting up there, and Jesper Swingley just sort of having to concede that place to Fluffy there. That was really, really well held there through turns 3 and 4. That's not normally an overtaking spot, but you know, if the overlap is there, it might as well.
Yeah, Fluffy Whitepoint getting their elbows out already here and making up for lost ground as we look at Daniel Taverner, who is struggling behind. Let's look at the replay at what might have happened to Fossey Tigris. So it was on the opening lap. It was on turn 4, I believe. You know, I think, yeah, 3 wide, and that was contact with their teammate, and with Beckable for good measure, that sends them spinning around in turn 4. So really an unfortunate situation for them in the opening lap. Anyways, flipping over to Daniel Taverner, who is still trailing behind on the podium. I'm not sure if Taverner has the fight in their hands. I'm not sure how the math goes, but at the moment, Taverner, I think they're struggling to just try and stay behind Vucinic and the top 3 overall.
I mean, they know that they can probably just sit there and keep picking up a slipstream and, you know, just let everything happen behind them that's happening. I don't think they want to fight it too much, as that was pretty late braking into turn 1 there from that car behind. That's Sapphire fighting for position with RS Volpez track position there. Also fighting for track position is Vossi, who is trying to get back up into the rest of this race. Cooperado not making it very much of a fight as they are heading into turn 4 now. It looks like at the moment that briefly gave an opportunity there for Jesper, who would also like to get around this AM driver. The not finding a way around as of right now, but it's going to be a pretty long way back up to where they were for Vossi. They've made some decent progress already, and the midfield is still pretty close together. I'm seeing a lot of orange on my screen, meaning that there's a lot of cars that are sort of within a second of each other, and Vossi is probably only about 10 seconds or so away from the top 10 as it stands right now. So there could be, you know, a pretty decent chance to get back up there for them. We've seen some really, really strong recovery drives from them in the past, and just, you know, good drives generally as well. So I have no doubt that they can get back up there potentially if they can. And that is really, really late braking from Bladewolf, and I think they might have forced that car off just a little bit. Maybe wasn't expecting the little bit of early braking there from Hoheisel, it looked like, and RX Sapphire also as well, trying to get back onto the road. We might want to go take a look at that incident again, but I think that might have just been a little bit of a lapse from Bladewolf there, a pretty rare lapse, and just getting into the back of another car a little bit, and ACC being the way it is, that light tap turned into a little bit more than what it should have been. So we'll take another look at that, and also this as well. And yeah, just taking a little bit too much of the dirt on the outside. The closing speed very, very high between these two, and I think that was mostly what it was. Maybe just a little bit of moving under braking there, if I have to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's not. I don't think there was really too much that Bladewolf could have done about that.
Anyways, here we go. Sauce Dragon fighting side to side with Yapton Tech, the Mustang, definitely with the power that will pull them on this back stretch. I feel like this could be a move. coming into turn 8. The Mustang diving down the inside. Can they get this move done? Yes, again, it's Sauce Dragon with another position, but Yapjin Tech is fighting back into the chicane. But Sauce Dragon holding on really strongly, and that'll be another position for Sauce Dragon climbing up the ranks.
Yeah, this circuit loves a dive, doesn't it? Especially into turn 8 and also into turn 1. You have sort of the combination of that really slow speed corner as well as just the huge runoff on the outside, so you could just really send one and then just track out to the outside and just, you know, sort of simultaneously cement your position and also, you know, prevent the car behind from, you know, being able to get a cutback on you. So, yeah, that was definitely exactly the setup that they wanted. And Sauce Dragon is up into P9 now, so again, you know, their main competition is Daniel Taverner up there in P4. They have quite a few cars to get through. Some of them are not in their class, so it should be maybe a little bit easier, but we get now back to this this train that is now being headed up by Sauce Dragon. We have Yapjin Tech behind, and then Philip Beckevold, who is just barely holding off Lohi Carlisle now after a little bit of a mistake from them. I don't think that this is going to be quite the place for Lohi to be able to go for that move as of right now. All of this is giving Parker Olsen a chance to get back into this fight, though. We saw these teammates fighting a little bit before. That was very, very close. A really, really brave moment there from Lohi to hold that GTR there. I could just picture the opposite lock in my mind as they were just trying to make sure that that GTR stayed pointed in the right direction.
I feel like Lohi needs a change of new pants over there as they are pushing the GTR as hard as Beckvold's pushing their Bordeaux. So these two are trying to, they're definitely on to duel each other for this race, but Lohi with, I believe they're trailing behind Beckevold. They know that they got faster car, but the Fusionist here with Zon and Daniel Taverner, that's our top 4-3-2 dueling. And it's Fusion, it's trailing behind Zon, really close, almost in bump drafting territory. The Ferrari really sniffing the Lexus rear end, smelling those exhaust fumes. But Nicholas Zon with the straight line speed of that Lexus slowly trailing off, but I don't think Fusion is just backing down. They really want to get past Zon right here. They're looking really aggressive on the rear end of that Cabal Lexus. As Taverner might want to sniff too. They're trying to see an opportunity where these two might crack. An accident between these two could lead to a position advantage. That's Olsen, Beckevold, and Lohi dueling each other. Lohi really slowing down, unfortunately catching their teammate in the process, and that's just left Olsen vulnerable to Mango as Mango goes down the inside. They're now 2-1 in turn 5, but Olsen holds on, so it's really argy-bargy here in the mid-pack. A lot of drivers just speeding and slowing, making a huge number of trains. I'm looking at the track map. There's a lot of trains to be seen around here as Beckevold runs away, and it's now Lohi leading that train with Olsen, Mango, and Volpez.
Yeah, action all over the place here. This might be a little bit of dive there from Mango, just sort of giving it a little bit of a look on the inside, but I think that was really well held there by Parker Olsen, sort of knowing that that car didn't have enough of an overlap or, you know, was going to have to brake really, really late, probably a little bit too late to actually be able to contest for that. So just keeping calm, keeping to their racing line, and that's, you know, the most that you can do. When you're, oh, look at the speed difference between those two. I think Parker Olsen might have gotten a little bit out of sorts there.
Chaos.
Also getting out of sorts was Lohi there, who I think might have gotten into the back of Beckevold there. They might fall all the way onto the back of this train. The teammates are still side by side behind as they're heading back out onto the front oval, but that's a huge moment and a great racecraft there from Mango to get back ahead of both of these cars, as now the teammates are just going to be scrapping for whatever is left here at this point. But yeah, we saw a couple of moments on that lap where Lohi was really looking to the inside there, really wanting to get around Philip. Yeah, and it's looking really, really chaotic behind as well, as these cars are going, it's looking like it's almost going to be 3 wide into turn 1 between these three, the two Garage 42 cars and the White Point, and it looks like it's just going to be the Garage 42 and the White Point who are going to be fighting it around here, still leaving room for each other. It's really good racing between them, but it's going to be the Lamborghini that's going to stay out in front. This is absolutely incredible stuff that we're seeing around here.
Yeah, this White Point in Garage 42 duel is something that I don't think we'll be missing. That's a duel that will be an interesting watch, but I think Parker Olsen just got past their teammate Lohi, but Lohi wants to fight back. That GTR is still on the slipstream, so I'm not sure how it'll go, but Olsen is holding on to that lead oh so fine, and at the moment, I think they're the faster car.
It looks like it so far, at least. I wonder if they're just trying to think about their separate races at the moment, and just, especially since they're teammates, just trying to, keep calm and just make sure that they get through. But this is something that I really wasn't expecting at all. Take a look at the straight line speed of that Lexus RCF compared to the Ferrari behind, and Nicholas Fuchsianis would very much, desperately want to contend for this P2. And in fact, they might just, take a look to the inside there, just trying to get a feel for their braking point. Just flaring out there a little bit to make sure that they knew where they were going, with their the front of their car being so full of Lexus at the moment. But yeah, just we saw on that onboard shot just a couple of laps ago, it was so it was such a great speed difference between the two of them, and it might have been just the way that both of them are able to get onto the oval and accelerate that may have created some of that difference. But I mean, they went from basically being right on the back of them, nearly pushing them down the oval, and basically from there just stretching it out by at least a couple of car lengths. So at least for now, it is advantage Nicholas Zahn at the moment with the track position and with the straight line speed. That's a car perpendicular on the entrance, it looks like, of turn 4, just trying to back out here and getting there. That's Matty Hoheisel, who's going to drop, I believe, all the way to the back, unfortunately, as they spin and get back on track. We didn't see quite what happened there, but I think we're going to take a look right now. Might have been a spin on their own. No cars around them at the moment. They're heading through turns 2 and 3 right now, picking up a little bit of dirt on the inside. May have dirtied their tires just a little bit. Yeah, that's exactly what happened there. So just sort of getting on the wrong side of that curb there, and it just upset the suspension, the rear end, a little bit. And when they were trying to get on the brakes to get into turn 4 there, the car was just a little bit too unstable. It was too much to ask for it.
Yeah, I do want to point out between this duel of Zahn and Fuchsianis, I believe, that the Ferrari and the Mustang, two cars of separate, entirely different driving philosophies. The Lexus, all about that top speed despite lacking corner ability, but that Ferrari, it's a lot of corner ability, but at the compromise of their top speed. So I think Fuchsianis has to play to the Ferrari's advantage. All they have to do is try to find a corner that'll pass it, but here in Indianapolis, I don't think there are a lot of corners to get past easily.
Yeah, not too many, and they're all at the end of those long straights. So again, it's a really, really frustrating position to be in. I've been on both ends of it before. You have that difference. You can feel how much better you are in those corners. As Sauce Dragon is almost getting alongside. This is the fight for P7 with Sadket not in their class, but Sadket is still fighting it. They're going to duck to the inside here, and I don't think that Sadket is going to make too much of a fight of it. It's a little bit of a dive there, and I think they're going to get onto the grass, and they're going to have to try again. And in fact, they're also going to have to get around Yapshintek, maybe? Ooh, very, very close between the two of them. I think Yapshintek just wanted to see if they could get back out in front, but Sauce Dragon said, absolutely not. No way about it. I am holding on to this P8, and you're going to have to get around me the normal way.
Yeah, and I think George Surround just caught past Jax Wilson and Manuel Benavides. But I do want to point out, we do have a four-way battle into P2 because Dena Calmari has joined the mix in that Tegang Ferrari, trailing behind the Echo Lamborghini. Ken Calmari pick off Taverner, going around the outside. Taverner on the inside. Ken Calmari get on the brakes, wrapping around the outside. This could be a move, but Taverner holding on quite easily, and Denak has to wait another moment, another day. So these four drivers still trying to settle in on who's gonna finish where, but this is the battle for P2. It's a four-way fight right now. It used to be a three-way, now it's a four-way.
Either way you say that, it's not going to sound great. But yeah, it is a four-way battle for these positions, and yeah, great effort there from Danak. But it was, it's really, really hard around the outside of turn 1 there. It's just nearly impossible the way that corner is profiled. But yeah, I mean, you can see just Lexus Ferrari and the Ferrari diving to the inside. That's going to upset that car. That's going to upset all four of them almost. And Nicholas Zahn, the huge loser out of the four of them. They're going to drop all the way from second to fifth, and Danak promoted all the way from 5th to 2nd. So they didn't need to wait very long at all for that P2. And yeah, I think Fusidus just got a little bit impatient there. I mean, I say a little bit impatient, but I mean, you try being behind a car that's faster than you for 5 laps and see if it doesn't make your blood boil just a little bit. I was about to say just the dynamic of this one is, you know, it was about to get, you know, flipped on its head a little bit here. But yeah, I mean, you just see, I think it was pretty early braking there, maybe from Nicholas on there as well. And yeah, the 2 other cars getting through okay. Obviously, you know, Taverner a pretty big winner from that as well. So that'll be good for their race. They're in the podium position right now. These 4 have stretched out now a little bit. And yeah, I actually would really like to see that from the next view. I think we're going to see it now.
Yeah, Dena Kamari keeping their nose clean, just sitting behind, just eating their popcorn as they sit behind the P4, P3, and P2. And then there goes, I believe, yeah, there goes Fusidus on the inside. Contact with Zahn and just, whoop, I'll be on my way, thank you very much. And that through goes Denak and up into P2. So smart driving from Dena Kamari, just staying out of trouble and waiting for their moment to arise. As we see Renfield racing alongside a Mustang of Sierra Thomas. Can Renfield go down the inside? This could be a move into turn 1 as the Works Mustang goes around the inside of the Echo, but Sierra Thomas on the outside hanging on, and I think that is Sierra well ahead. Renfield backed out last minute, thought that it could go wrong, and is waiting for another moment, that's for sure.
Yeah, almost too respectful racing between these 2 cars. Oliver Renfield behind there, probably braking a lot more than they needed to, just to, you know, make sure that they were trying to leave enough space on the outside of that corner. And then at the same time, Sierra Thomas leaving a lot of room on the outside. Again, it might have been a little bit of a mistake from them. But here is the White Points Ferrari going down the inside of Jesper Swingley. We've seen these 2 just battling basically since the beginning of this race. And so far it's been, you know, Jesper behind this car actually, as we've seen, at least for, you know, the first couple of laps of this one. But you know, for now they are remaining behind, and they're pretty close here. It looks like going into turn 13, this might be a little bit of an opportunity for them here as they take the outside line, cutting onto the inside, and now it's side by side, but this becomes the outside for 14, and it's a very, very long corner. A little bit of a bump there, and a little bit of a tank slapper there as well for Fluffy, just trying to get on the power out onto the main straight. That's going to ruin their exit and bring these 2 side by side once more, getting onto the main oval here, and it looks like it's probably going to be a little bit not enough of an overlap here for Jesper Swingley. I think they're going to back out of this one, and yeah, pretty smart from them as well. All of this is bringing Cooper Otter into the mix as well, into P20, so they might be able to promote themselves up into 18th here if they play their cards right, especially considering the kind of racing that we've been seeing so far.
Yeah, Indianapolis has really delivered some really interesting racing. You know, you got all these drivers really up close and personal with each other as Jesper Swingley tries to find a way around Fluffy White Point. But the Ferrari making it hard for the Garage 22 Porsche as they duck it down the inside. Can it be an overrunner for Jesper Swingley? Swingley might have the run here into turn 8, and it's going to be a drag race between the Porsche and the Ferrari, but the Porsche got the inside, the Ferrari got the inside line, and it's Ferrari late braking, but Swingley might have the exit here. It's going to be over-under once again, and Swingley wrapping around the outside of the chicane could not make the overlap stick. But it's White Point still ahead, but Cooper Otter stalking behind, and Jesper Swingley still trying to find a way. Could this be the moment for the number 279 Porsche going around outside, going around the inside, trying to find a move to pick off Fluffy White Point, and that could be the moment. Fluffy White Point goes too deep, but Jesper Swingley still not finding the moment. Fluffy White Point just parking it in all the right places, and it's just making it really hard for Swingley. And now Sarami's in the mix. It's now a 4-way fight between the 2 Garage 42 Porsches, a White Point Ferrari, and a BMW. It could also be Charter in the mix, but Jesper Swingley has a clear moment into turn 1. Could it be a dive? Thinks better of it, but it could be White Point that's going wide, and that is Jesper Swingley on the outside line. It could be an overtake, and that is Jesper Swingley through.
Finally, right? that was a move many corners in the making, almost a full lap in the making, as these two were going side by side. But yeah, if you want to see a class on defensive driving, that's about as good of a 101 as you're going to get right there. Just doing their best to really, and this circuit rewards it, just parking it on the apexes of all of these corners, pretty much taking those really long outside lines as well, and just carrying the speed all the way through, because you do have to slow down so much if you want to take the inside line for a lot of these corners. And that is a little bit of billiards between the three of them. That is going to be the McLaren behind, getting all the way through now as well, and George Cerami turning around as well, and there's another impact on the rear end of George Cerami from Oliver Renfield, it looked like, making the contact there. And that is absolutely not what they would want for the rest of this race. That Porsche looking all out of sorts now. That must be some suspension damage, I have to imagine. We'll take a look at it again.
I'm sorry, but to quote Sebastian Vettel, is this racing or ping pong? Because George Cerami was just ping pong all over the place. Coming into turn 8, that was a rear end tap, another rear end tap for Cerami. And then Cerami trying to, what the? I swear that did not happen, but Cerami tried to spin the right way around, but got another tap from Redwood, so Cerami was ping-ponged all over the place, and that is definitely huge damage for the Porsches as they come into pit lane, so that'll be a long time Cerami spending in the pits. And speaking of, our pit window did just open like 4 minutes ago, so everyone is free to do their mandatory pit stop, but I think a lot of these drivers are opting to stay out up until the final moments.
Yeah, I wasn't even paying attention to the pit window, but yeah, it is indeed open. It has been open for 4 minutes apparently. I didn't really take a look at it, but here's Sosh Dragon still trying to make up this position on Sadcat, and for Sadcat's credit, is actually holding on to it quite well. I wonder if either of these two are going to be thinking about going into the pits anytime soon. I think it's a fairly long pit lane here in Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We are, of course, using the main oval one, and yeah, I mean. Let's just take a brief look here at Holvedel here, who is still, despite being a silver driver in the RK9 Ferrari 296, is 20 seconds up the road from Danak. Of course, some of that had to come from the incident there between 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, but I mean, still, it's just been a really, really solid drive from them. You can see just absolutely no cars around. They're going to be well into the S's by the time any other cars get onto the straight here. But taking a look back at Sosh Dragon as we are, trying to just find a place to get around here. It's been really good progress up the grid so far. 6 places up from where they started, but it seems like their progress is getting impeded here just a little bit, heading into this part. And there's Christian Klippert right ahead of the two of them as well, who would love to see both of them fight as the fight they are, as Sosh Dragon is going to go down the inside just a little bit. I think just trying to scare Sadcat off their line, but Sadcat holding it really, really well. Just not really being phased too much by any of these, really offensive shapes that Sosh is throwing here, just to try to throw them off.
Yeah, it's going to be mind games for Sosh Dragon, who has to get past Sadcat in order to progress throughout the field. As we see Nudigen on the inside of Sierra Thomas, getting that Porsche on the inside and ahead of the Echo Mustang, but that Mustang, I don't think they're backing up. No, that's a spin from Sierra Thomas and saved it. That is a save from Sierra Thomas. Lucky to get that Mustang pointed the right way before it could even hit the barriers.
Oh gosh, absolutely fantastic save. Yeah, I mean, that is. It looks like you have so much space on the outside of the that exit there, and there's Sosh Dragon finally making the move on Sadcat there. I think that must have been some kind of mistake or something from Sadcat, maybe heading onto the oval here. But yeah, what a dive, and somehow managing to get that Mustang stopped, and actually quite neatly over the curves as well. So that was a really, really well done move there from Sosh Dragon, and finally they are free to push once again up to their next target, which is Christian Klippert. This is for position, and Daniel Tavener is up there in P3 now, and there's the Ferrari splitting them as well. But after Christian Klippert, it's going to be another 5 seconds before Sosh Dragon runs into Fusinish. So again, there's still a lot of ground to make up.
And Sosh Dragon is a man on a mission right now in hopes of redeeming whatever they can in order to hopefully put their name in the championship fight, because at the moment, I think the favorites are still Taberner and Nicholas Zahn, who, in the case of Taberner, is well ahead of Zahn, so Taberner's got a clean race ahead of them. Hopefully nothing happens unlike Donington Park, but you know, all Taberner has to do is stay behind their Take-Gang Ferrari of Denak, and they'll be safe, because Denak has the pace right now. Denak's giving Taberner a run for their money, so all Taberner has to do is just get the toe.
It's been pretty metronomic, actually, from the leader of TGR, at least so far. Basically, once they got this position, they really haven't been challenged for it, basically, for the rest of that time since that happened. It's 1.6 seconds between the two of these drivers right now, but that's more than a comfortable gap for Denak at this point, who is just allowing the Ferrari to, get on through the rest of these corners. And we've been kind of seeing the food chain a little bit, between these cars in terms of top speed. It seems like the Lexus is beating the Ferrari, but it also seems like the Ferrari is beating the Lamborghini, at least as it stands right now. There's Nicholas Zahn in the back of picture as well, who has somehow managed to make it back up to the two of these cars after, they were easily the biggest loser out of that incident in these couple of corners that happened a couple of laps ago. They lost quite a bit of time from that, but they've managed to get their way back up. They're now only about 2.5 seconds away from these two, so it's not too bad, and our leader is in the pits.
Yeah, that's Hovedo coming to pit lane, so Denak will be our leader so far, as the Ferrari goes through quite a long pit lane. Have they come in? I think they're coming into their pit box, but yeah, you did mention before, the Indianapolis circuit, the pit lane spans almost the whole oval stretch, so that's a painstakingly long pit lane. So you have 85-second pit stop time. That's just, if you're not a fan of waiting, you'll really hate this pit lane.
It's the longest on our calendar for sure, and I think probably the only one that's longer in the game might be Spa, because they use the double pit lane for that one, where you have to go through sort of the first bit and then the second bit, sort of after getting through La Source. But that's not where we are right now. We're in Indianapolis, and here's Sierra Thomas, who is trying to make up some room, that's sort of having to fight the Mustang all the way through. But they're now able to fight Charter this is Nutagen, the Waypoint's Porsche 992. Who is holding off this position as of right now. It's only about 0.4 seconds between the two of them. And again, not in the same class, so this isn't for points or anything like that. But it is definitely, Sierra Thomas is looking at that clear air and would very much like it. I think that they might actually get this move done before they get into turn one. They at least have the front axle ahead of that Porsche as it stands right now. And I don't think that Nutagen is going to make too much of a fight of it, although it does kind of look like they are. As of this point, the outside becomes the inside for turn two.
Oh, that's a tap!
The two of them
That's
come
Sierra
together
Thomas
a little bit. That was the unluckiest possible place for that barrier to be in. I think if they had spun maybe a fraction of a second before that, and that's a teleport all the way back to the pits for Sierra Thomas, so that will most likely be race over. But gosh, how unlucky is that? Just basically taking it right into the front of that barrier. If they had spun any sooner before that, they may have gotten away with it with just a side swipe of that barrier, or maybe even getting past it, not hitting it at all. But I mean, to the credit of that Porsche, held it fairly well. I would call that a bit of an incident, but gosh, that is so unlucky.
Yeah, that is just really, really tragic for Sierra Thomas. Wrong. It's just wrong place, wrong time, as you say. Anyways, that's Auras Volpez trying to get past Racing Mango, the Lamborghini hounding on the rear end of McLaren, getting really close actually. So at this point, I think Volpez can get past. It's just a matter of where and when. The Lamborghini trying to find the weaknesses of the McLaren and take advantage of it. But at the moment, Racing Mango still holding strong against the number 406.
Right, the McLaren today seems to be one of the better all-rounders. It's got that decent straight line speed. It has decent pace in the corners as well. That long wheelbase not hurting it too much, and actually helping it quite a bit through some of the mid to higher speed stuff. But we've had some more pits from folks at the top of our timing sheets. Nicholas Zahn has just exited the pit lane, and Sadket and Philip Beckevold are in there as well. And here comes Daniel Taverner and Danak right in front. So our race leader is going to come in and probably drop back into second now as well. But now it's going to be a battle in the pits between these two. And I think the two of them were Taverner was basically just thinking that they were going to copy what they were doing in front of there, as there goes Matty Hoheisel on the McLaren 720S right behind there, up into P22, and that McLaren in fact might lose a second position to JPEG Fox, who is actually that is JPEG Fox in the McLaren. Very, very late braking from the Garage 42, and that's just
Swingley.
Just trying to get around these two cars. That's a blue flag incident, in fact, so that's really, really unfortunate to happen. And again, we keep seeing Porsches getting battered around in this race.
I think that'll knock down Swingley's momentum because they were on a charge. And keep this in mind, I don't think Swingley's came into the pits yet, as we see Fusion Edge having to fight Chris Clifford. I think both of them have made their pit stop as far as I'm aware. Yeah, Clifford and Fusion Edge have done their pit stop. So that incident with Zahn knocking them down right behind Clifford, so they did have the pace, but unfortunately, this incident just knocked them down a peg, and now they have to climb up all over again.
Right, we only have 3 drivers who haven't pitted yet, so it's Jesper and Charter and Nutagen are our 3 drivers who have not taken their mandatory pit stop yet. They have another 6 minutes to do it. That'll be a couple of laps for them, but you don't want to leave it too long. Here's Nicholas Fusenis trying to get around Christian Clippert, the AM on the gold, which is something that we don't say too often, but considering the pace that we've seen from Nicholas Fusenis just throughout this series, and especially in this race, looking really, really comfortable around Indianapolis today, and is just has been fighting for a lot of these really, really top positions. So honestly, from what we've seen, should make fairly short work of this Mercedes, and is all over the back of it already through this hairpin. It'll depend on the kind of exit that they're able to get onto the back straight here, and it looks like they're going to get the exit that they need. The momentum swinging back their way once again. They're going to be in the slipstream here. It's probably about 0.3 of a second between the two of them here, and I don't think that's going to be close enough, actually, in fact. And it's looking like the Mercedes, one of those cars that's looking like it's okay in a straight line, at least for now. So again, that Ferrari suffering a little bit behind another car, and I feel like Fusenich at this point has to be getting pretty tired of looking at the back of cars.
Yeah, I mean, really unfortunate case for Fusion having to stick behind a roaring V8 engine for quite the long race for them. How they got a rear end of that Mercedes. They're definitely impatient, trying to find a way past, but unfortunately can't do that quite yet as the drivers file into pit lane, and they'll make up decisions for that, I guess. But Vucinic, at the moment, I think that they'll be frustrated. They've been spending a lot of this race hounding on the rear end of drivers. They did it with Zahn, and now they're doing it with Clifford. If I was I would want to get past too if I were them. But that has got to wait. Patience is key. You got to find the weak points. You got to find your opponent's vulnerabilities and take advantage of those weaknesses.
Right, and you don't want a repeat of what happened down into this corner that they're about to go into. When they were fighting for a podium position, which is looking pretty far away from them right now as it stands. So yeah, definitely don't want to do that again, especially when it's pretty unnecessary. They're not really particularly pressured from any cars behind, and it's nothing but clear air in front of the two of these cars. So it's not like there are any other higher positions on offer, at least for right now. These two 10 seconds off the back of Nicholas Zahn as it stands right now, which I have to wonder if that's actually correct, because I thought I was seeing Nicholas Zahn in the shot as we were sort of, getting onto the front straight, but that was most likely another car. But yes, Nicholas Zahn getting up there, and now here come the last of our pitters, Jesper Swingley coming in finally, and that will give us the true gaps between our P1, P2, and P3, and Daniel Taverner still behind Danak Kalmari, but not far away at all. Both of them almost 30 seconds away from Holvedel up in P1 still.
Yeah, Holvedel still pulling a strong distance ahead of Danak Kalmari as Fusidish still tries to find their way around Chris Clifford, but that hasn't happened at the moment. The Mercedes playing its strengths really nicely, but the Ferrari just tried to find the weak points. As I said, this could be the moment, but the Mercedes blocking the inside. That Fusidish is really close to the rear end, trying to find the weak spot. The corners is where the Ferrari's good, but the straight line speed is the Mercedes game, and the Mercedes and Christian Clifford definitely having that in the bag. But Fusidish on that slipstream, could this be the moment for them? Thinks better of it. No, that's a dive down the inside. Will this be two times lucky? It's Fusidish getting the move done finally, and it's good. It's good for them because they did learn from that incident with Zahn.
Yeah, that's the way that they would have wanted that to go in the first place. But I mean, I think it was probably had something to do with the fact that there were, two other cars in the mix as well. And it's difficult to make moves like that work when there's other cars around you that you need to pay attention to. But meanwhile, yeah, this fight has gotten quite close for P2 between Daniel Taberner and Danak. So Danak still trying to fight off that Lamborghini as of right now, and Nicholas Zahn not far behind as well. So if these two start fighting, we could have a repeat of the bit of the race that we had at the beginning. Towards the end now, we are getting into the last couple of minutes of this one. We got about 20 minutes left as it stands right now, so a little bit of a sprint race now between these cars who are just trying to make it to the end. I feel like the tires might start coming into play here, especially considering that we have a lot of really high traction zones and places where the rear tires are really getting lit up. So depending on how much speed that you're going to be able to carry onto the straights here, that might come into play as well. This looks like a pretty good exit here from Daniel Taverner, who is getting closer and closer to the back of that Ferrari. The Ferrari is not going to defend here, and the Taverner is not going to attack, is going to bide their time. Probably going to be looking for a move down into turn one, ideally, if they can manage it, or if they find an opportunity earlier, they could do that as well. But Nicholas Zahn is catching up very quickly to the back of these, and it's now very quickly turning into a three-way battle.
And we have the legendary supercar rival around here, Lamborghini versus Ferrari. Taverner just trying to find the weak points of Danak's Ferrari and try to get past, but Danak defending so nicely, making that Taygang Ferrari as wide as it can be, parking it in all the right places, and just keeping Taverner at bay, and could keep Zahn at bay. This could be Taverner's risk in the championship fight, because they have Zahn on their rear end. So Taverner, if I was in Taverner's shoes, I wouldn't be at ease. I would want to get past Kalmari as quick as possible and have that car in between me and my rival.
Right, and that's Taverner's only rival at this point in the race, I have to imagine, because Saj is still pretty far behind Christian Clifford, hasn't really been able to make any inroads into that gap as it stands so far, and Nicholas Zahn continuing to flash throughout this lap as they're just trying to throw them off a little bit as much as they can. Here comes a lapped car, so this could affect things a little bit. Danak trying to get to the inside of that car as well. That was pretty close between them, but that car is going to pull off to the inside and just let the three of them through. I don't think this is going to be an opportunity for a move as it stands right now, but there's a lot more traffic, it looks like, coming up for these three, so it's going to be a matter of just Danak trying to part the seas here, and that's going to give the advantage to the rest of them behind, since they don't have to be the ones to make the first move on those. There's a car going off into the grass on the outside, so that's going to be one piece of traffic at least that the three of them aren't going to have to worry about, at least as we listen to the glorious sounds of the engine of that Lexus RCF. It's been looking really, really good on the straights, and this could give an opening for Nicholas Zahn as we head onto the front straight for one of the last times.
Yeah, this is the really fun thing about having drivers at different skill level. You have the back markers who could play a big factor into major fights, such as such as the battle we have here, Dana Kalmari, Daniel Tabner versus Nicholas Zahn here. This could be something that could define who gets the title between Tabner and Zahn, and this could define whether Kalmari stays on the podium or not.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely, you know, they were looking pretty comfortable for a podium at least before, you know, sort of after that incident. It's been a really great recovery drive at this point from Nicholas Zahn to get back up into this position. You know, Fusenich still hasn't really quite recovered from that whole incident, and that was pretty wide there again from some back marker traffic, it looks like. So these two are going to be going a little bit side by side, and Daniel Tabner is going to try it around the outside here, and that's just going to open the door for Nicholas Zahn. Great racecraft from the driver of the Lexus RCF there, and that was just a little bit of a mistake there from Daniel. Got a little bit too aggressive and trying to move a position up, and it ended up being a position down. That's very, very easy when you get into fights like this. You really have to pick your moment.
Yeah, that was a really clever move from Nicholas Zahn, taking advantage of Daniel Tabner, trying to get past Kalmari, but yeah, I think that back marker kind of paid dividends. I think Tabner tried to take advantage, but they were between a rock and a hard place. They were between Denak and a back marker, so that unfortunately cost them that unfortunately cost them the podium, and that unfortunately cost them the position, and as they're now right behind Nicholas Zahn.
Yeah, sometimes all you can worry about really is just getting through the corner safely. That might have been part of it as well, considering the overlap there, you know, between them and Danak, and also that Danak was really strongly defending the inside at that point in the corner. So I think that was really sort of the best that Daniel could do at that particular point. But they're going to be looking for revenge now as Nicholas Zahn is continuing to be eyes forward and is eyeing that P2 that they were in. Remember, at the start of this race, it's been quite a journey for them from the beginning to the end of this one, but they might end up exactly where they started if all goes well for them. The three of these cars, of course, 28 seconds off of our leader, who is just disappearing off into the distance at this point, and I don't think any of them are going to be able to particularly catch. But we've seen some really, really good defensive driving from Danak before in this race, and they're going to have to employ it once again as they are heading down into turn 13. Could be a decent braking zone, especially with the straight line speed advantage that we've seen from that Lexus RCF. They're really, really close right now onto the rear wing of that Ferrari, and they're going to be looking to the inside here. It's not going to quite be the dive that they're looking for, but very, very close between the two of them. And Daniel Tabner, again, just in the hunt in the background as well. The dynamic flipping between these two cars now as Danak is just trying to run away as much as they can.
I mean, Nicholas Zahn now has to be the driver that's playing smart, because one wrong move against Kalmari, and that could be Tabner taking advantage, but Kalmari could be under pressure here as Nicholas Zahn goes deep on the inside, just thinks better of it. Kalmari on the outside, but this could pay into Tabner's hands as Tabner wraps around the outside, trying to take advantage of Nicholas Zahn's situation and going around the outside still. Could this be a pass for the Echo Lamborghini? It's not quite yet, as the Cabal Lexus still maintains its position. It was a close call for Nicholas Zahn, but they still remain ahead.
And now's the time for the Ferrari to run, now that these two are coming together and they're fighting pretty hard for this position. So this is going to be the opportunity for Danak to finally break away. I think the two of them are just going to settle down here. They understand that their race to a certain extent isn't really with each other, but it's with this car up in front. If both of them can pull together just a little bit here. I know we're getting into the point of the race where you're starting to look out for yourself just a little bit more, but maybe a bit of cooperation could play into their hands as they're just trying to stay onto the back of this P2. Why fight for P3 when you can fight for P2, I suppose? And, you know, the two of them could both end up with the podium here if they play their cards right. But yeah, that was just a lot of really, really close racing between those two. A couple of bumps there that I was actually really nervous about, considering the way that we've seen some of these cars sort of pinball into each other with the ACC physics. But they managed to keep everything really clean. You know, full credit to them. And yeah, it was a great defense down into turn 1 there for Danak, just understanding that, you know, they telegraphed really early that they wanted to come to that inside line, and then Nicholson was just like, all right, you're going to go inside, I'll go inside more. And then at that point, it was just a matter of, you know, carrying the speed around the outside, and you know, that was all that they had to do. But yeah, it's been a really intelligent drive from all 3 of these drivers so far. We're seeing some really, really just great action from these drivers at the top of their game.
Yeah, at the moment they're quite a ways apart, but I think Daniel Taverner rushing into the inside, the Lamborghini, I feel like has a cornering advantage compared to that Lexus, but unfortunately that Lexus has a lot of legs. It's got the top speed, it's got the drafted Kalmari, so that'll be enough for Nicholson to keep ahead of Taverner. So at the moment, I think Zahn is just working with Kalmari here. The Kalmari being the deciding factor between the championship rivalry, the championship fight between these two. You know, just keeping the slipstream or being a cork in the bottle. But at the moment, I think these two are at bay just behind Kalmari. But I sense an urge of wanting to get past. You know, having a car in between the two, in between your rival, will pay dividends.
Yeah, take a look at how much that Lamborghini was able to catch up in the braking zone here. That might be the advantage that Daniel has here. And you know, if you do have an advantage in the braking zones, that's definitely a good indication that you could make a dive work if you play your cards right. We've seen some really, really aggressive dives, especially into turn 1 from cars before. This would be much too aggressive if it was going to happen here. But yeah, once again, you can just see how much these two cars come together in those braking zones. So if they can just keep up enough through these technical, you know, slower speed sections, slow to mid speed, you know, that might be the opportunity that they need to just send one down the inside for the two of them. But again, still keeping in mind that they want to be trying to get to that P2 if they can. It's been really, really strong pace at this part of the race for Danak. So, you know, it might not be too much of a chance. And now that Nicholson is looking more in their rear view mirror than, you know, sort of forward, which is where they wanted to be looking, it might be just that, you know, that Ferrari is able to disappear just a little bit. But for now, the two of them just holding station. Meanwhile, yeah, Sauce Dragon still not really able to make any inroads here. I think that if things were to go the way that they are now, it would be Daniel on top of our leaderboard. So I think Daniel's probably not going to do it too much. So yeah, as of right now, they are 4 points apart. So that would be enough for Daniel to secure the win. So I don't think they're probably going to want to do too much. But again, you know, it's a podium on the line, so might as well.
I mean, I would fight for honor, so, you know, just duke it out with your championship rival. I mean, where's the fun in just staying behind when you can just throw hands with your opponent? You know, as Daniel Taverner is still being persistent on that rear end of Nicholas Zahn, could be lining up for a move, but unfortunately, the legs of that Lexus, they're too long, they're too fast. You know, Taverner just having to try to take advantage in the corners. So yeah, Taverner still trying to find a weak point, but at the moment, Nicholas Zahn is holding really strong.
Holding really strong here, and we have 10 minutes left in our championships. 10 minutes left of GT3 Season 8. It's probably going to be about, you know, 4 or 5 laps now between the two of them, depending on when Holvedel crosses the line, of course. You know, 30 seconds up the road, so there's a good chance that there might be an extra lap where they might not expect it. But yeah, these cars getting really, really close now, and Danak disappearing further and further up the road between these two. They've been able to turn on the pace, and it's been paying off for them, at least so far. Look at how much speed that Lamborghini is carrying through all of these corners right now, all of these long corners, and it's got to be frustrating just to see that gap start to open up. You can just see it happen in real time. This might be the most that we've seen, you know, different car dynamics come into play. Just for whatever reason, this circuit in particular is really exaggerating the differences between these cars significantly, and it's been the story of this race, really, and the reason why Nicholas Zahn has been able to hold on to this podium for as long as they have.
Yeah, you know, the top speed, keeping that Lexus ahead, and I think that was, I'm not sure if it was White Point past Swingley or Swingley falling down behind, but yeah, here comes White Point getting past Swingley, and having to go through a back marker of Coda, which could be a deciding factor because that GTR not giving a bit of way at the moment, just keeping to their line. I mean, that's what you want to do, but you do want to be predictable if you're a back marker and you have a front runner car coming in front of you, as you see Philip Beckevold having to, oh, what a slide from Philip Beckevold, saving that in the nick of time. That was a close one from Beckevold, right behind the dirty air of that BMW, but will make the pass regardless.
The Porsches really are looking a little bit uncomfortable around this track. They have been all day, and just tucks back in, isn't able to get the overlap that they quite wanted there to get back up into P22 ahead of Cooper Otter there in the BMW. They're going to try to follow as closely as they can through this section of track here, this Sector 1. It is rather tough, I would say, to follow a car through here. There's a lot of slow-ish speed stuff, and very, very close between the two of them, but the Porsche is still staying behind, just looking for an opportunity here, any opportunity that they can get to get around this BMW. And that was, again, a little bit of a wiggle. The rear end of that Porsche just really, something about this track it is really not enjoying for whatever reason. It might be a matter of hopping over the curb, getting airborne just a little bit, and then doing some lawn mowing just to cap it off. And that's going to be them down to P24 when they were looking at P22 just a few moments ago.
That is not how you want to have your brakes act on you. The Porsche, I've heard, can be unpredictable, especially when the fuel tank is low. So I feel like that could be playing to factors such as the likes of Swigley and Beckevold. They're just having trouble with I think the light front end, because the fuel tank's in the front and all the weight is on the rear. It's just a spell for trouble.
Right, you have an engine and a gearbox in the back of it, and then you have low fuel in the front of it, and it's just understeer city as far as that goes. As Daniel Taverner is now very, very close to the back of Nicholas on, but once again, that Lexus just getting away immediately on the straights. This has got to be, again, just incredibly frustrating. It's basically, as soon as Nicholas on gets the track position, it's pretty much game over for the cars behind, especially the mid-engine ones who just really haven't been able to make any sort of headway. Again, Danak up there in front is enjoying track position over Nicholas on and doesn't really have to worry about the straight line speed of that car, at least for now, because they're still doing about the same pace despite the fact that they're finding time in completely different parts of the racetrack. So the farther away that they are, then the better it tends to get as Philip Beckevold gets to the outside, gets to the inside here, and I think this is going to be the biggest commitment that we've seen from them so far. The two of them going side by side through this section and through the S's, and they're still side by side, picking up a little bit of dirt there on the outside, and that will be just quite not the position there, between the two of them. Cooper Otter squeezing the Porsche just a little bit on the outside, but leaving just enough room between the two of them. It's good racing, and Philip Beckevold is going to have to try again.
Yeah, Cooper Otter putting up some really brilliant defending, as we see Racing Mango on the inside of Ars Vulpes. That's contact, and there's Blade Wolf going past the McLaren, not quite getting past the Lamborghini, but Racing Mango fighting back. But at the moment, Blade Wolf Kagakiyo has got the position and has got the slipstream of that 406 Lamborghini.
Yeah, and here they go down the front stretch now. I don't know how the Aston Martin has been in a straight line, at least so far. We haven't really had enough data, but they're going to have to go to the outside here. This could potentially give an opportunity for Mango if they go fight pretty hard. And in fact, it is going to, because Blade Wolf just had to check up a little bit there, and then the outside of turn 2 is going to become the inside of turn 3. And I think the Aston Martin is just going to have to back off here a little bit, and that's going to be Racing Mango back up into the position that they were in. But here comes the over-under there from Blade Wolf, and it's not going to quite be enough. Racing Mango chopping up the front of the Aston Martin there, and just keeping them back, behind them. And Jesper Swingley here trying to still make this move on Fluffy White Point, as they have been for the last 50 minutes of this one. They have 4 minutes left to make this happen, and it's looking like they're probably not going to be able to, at least for so far. We have still a couple of fights going on track right now, and I think Blade Wolf has gotten in front of Mango as it stands right now on our leaderboards. And yes, indeed, that Aston Martin is in front of the McLaren as it stands right now. Must have been a move into turn 8 would be my guess.
Yeah, Playable Kagio, a solid driver, so a driver with solid racecraft. So I knew they'll eventually find their way past Racing Bango despite that mistake. But here we go, Jesper Swingley versus Fluffy White Point. We've been seeing this battle earlier as Jesper Swingley goes down the inside, but White Point has that outside line and wraps around it and just keeps ahead of that Porsche. You know, White Point keeping good track position, but Swingley not giving up just yet, going around the outside, but White Point putting the car in all the right places and just keeping ahead. But Swingley, as I said, Swingley's not gonna give up. Is he gonna go outside or inside? You know, Swingley going on the outside, trying to get the exit lined up, but White Point is in the way. White Point putting the car on the apex, putting the car in all the right places. As we pan over to Daniel Taverner versus Nick Lazon, this battle is still not over yet, but Nick Lazon still ahead. Daniel Taverner having the advantage in the corners, but as I said, Nick Lazon has the track position advantage and has the top speed of that Lexus to keep them ahead of the Lamborghini on the straights. But Daniel Taverner really closer than ever before. Here they go on the back stretch. Could the slipstream be enough for the Lamborghini? They're keeping relatively close, but that Lexus just really having the top speed advantage that Lamborghini can't compare to. So Daniel Taverner has to resort with going on the corners. Daniel Taverner on the rear end, sniffing the Lexus even, but at the moment it's just Nicholas on ahead as you see the fight between Fluffy White Point and Jesper Swingley not yet over as Swingley goes over under. Swingley on the outside, and has Swingley have the traction? It's going to be a drag race between the two on the back stretch. Is it going to be Porsche? Is it going to be Ferrari? Both cars, I think, performing relatively similar in terms of top speed, but White Point on the outside, Swingley on the inside, and it's going to be really close, but White Point hugging around the outside. It's this fight, it's not over yet because Swingley's not giving up. I need to take this away from me, Kady. I'm getting really...
This is such great really racing from Fluffy, though. I mean, that looked like it was going to be basically a slam dunk for Swingley to get that move done, but just, judging the late braking on the outside absolutely perfectly and just carrying enough of that momentum to get the position back. It's exactly what you need to do to get this happen. And yeah, we just got the notification that the leader is on the final lap of this race. We haven't seen a whole lot of Leonard Holvedel since the beginning of this one, and that is not going to change pretty much until this one. And we're going to go back to this fight between Daniel Taverner, and I mean, I know you have a championship to think about. I know you can already taste that gold medal, but I mean, I feel like that move into turn 1 a couple laps ago, that had to have been probably their best chance. I don't think that they're probably going to get a better chance than that, especially not on this final lap here. This would have been their best opportunity here in turn 1, and it's not going to be good enough for them. They're going to have to hope to stick close enough in sector 1 to be able to maybe make a move into turn 8, and failing that, they're going to have to start getting really creative, maybe something into 13, or maybe into the S's even if they're really feeling it. But yeah, the overlap just, it doesn't look like it's there, at least for now, and I have to imagine that might have been their best opportunity. But up the road goes Nat Kalmari. We see them just in the back of shot right there. There was just a little bit of attention there as we were trying to see whether that car was going to be able to actually make that corner. It looked like it was a little bit tough between the two of them. But yeah, so into turn 8, not enough for them. And here goes Leonard Holvedel across the line. He is our race winner, and it's going to be another 35 seconds before anyone else crosses the line. But we get back here into the run down to turn 13. This is really going to be the last realistic overtaking zone, I would say, for Daniel Taverner, and I don't think that they're going to be close enough. I think they're just going to have to settle for P4 here, but they're also...
Oh, that's contact! Oh!
There's contact between the two of them, and that might actually just open the door for Sash Dragon, depending on how long it takes to clean up this mess. Nicholas Zahn getting back out onto the road, and Nicholas Fuchsius going through the both of them, and that's going to be an overall podium for Nicholas Fuchsius at one of the last corners of the last lap. You didn't think it was going to happen. Tanak Kalmari is across the line, and there goes Nicholas Fuchsius as well. And there's Daniel Taverner, who is going to win the championship despite finishing P5. Sash Dragon and P7, only one car between them, the TGR of Christian Clippert in the end. and Jesper Swingley, I think, not able to get around Fluffy Whitepoint by the end of that one. Philip Beckevold still fighting for this position. This is still a race, and that's JPEG Fox a little bit off the racing line there into the gravel, and that is going to give the opportunity for Philip Beckevold to make it happen. And that's all the way around for JPEG Fox. Unfortunately, that's going to drop them towards the back of the grid, and that's going to be a position gained, unfortunately, for Philip Beckevold, not waiting up to let that car back on past. I think that would have been maybe a little bit of a tall order to try to let that car pass at that point in the race. But there we go. We can take a breath. That's everybody across the line. And that is everything sorted out for GT3 Season 8.
Yeah. I did want to point out that Daniel Taverner, you know, just waiting for Nicholas Zahn to get back to racing. I feel like that's a very smart move of them. They know that they can't risk a penalty, so you know, fair racing. As we see Dana Kalmari doing donuts on their one and only race in the GT3 series, you know, they did an excellent performance. They kept their nose clean, and especially Leonard Hovedel, you know, just showing a dominant performance. I gotta tip my hat to these two Ferraris, making it a Ferrari 1-2, which is something that I really yearn in Formula 1.
Well, you might have to wait a little bit for that, but that's it for Indianapolis, and that is it for Season 8. So we now have all of our champions sorted out. That's going to be both the overall and the gold win. I'm almost certain for Daniel Taverner by the end of this one, and of course Blade Wolf coming into this race with the lead secured. So that's going to be a win for Blade Wolf as well. Congratulations for another silver victory. And in our AM class with George Cerami crossing the line, that is, I think, going to be the win for them as well. Although it's looking like you know, Oliver Renfield and Racing Mango as well finished pretty far up the order as well. So we'll get those points out to you as soon as we can. We'll just confirm everything just as soon as we're able to. But I have to say that's, to me, for the races that I've seen in this championship, that has to be a contender for the best one.
Yeah, that was a lot of drama. You know, at Indianapolis, definitely a circuit that could bring quite the kerfuffle. But yes, I mean, absolute cinema, man. Like, anyways, if you want to keep into real time with status on the championship, go ahead, join the Simufur Discord server. We post announcements on our championships in real time over there. Or if you don't have a Discord, then we do have our social media over on Blue Sky, if you please. Anyways, the racing action is not over yet. This GT3 Season 8, it's not our last championship. We still have a lot of more racing to do, and one of these races is the Simufur iRacing Porsche Cup Series. You know, this is a series that I've been looking forward to, especially as an iRacer, you know. And I did try the Porsche Cups myself. These are cars that are a blast to drive, you know. So if you're on iRacing, if you do have the Porsche Cup and if you do have the Porsche Cup, then this could be the race for you. Round 1 takes place at the Virginia International Raceway at March 29, 2026. And VIR is a free track, by the way, but we do have some DLC tracks along the way.
Yeah, I mean, this car is, it's honestly kind of the reason why I still pay for iRacing. It is so incredible. I've been racing it basically all season in officials last season when it came out, and it is just an absolute blast. It balances so well on the limit. It's so intuitive to drive, and it's a great challenge for you know, anybody who just wants to improve their racecraft. It's a great teaching tool as well. Of course, everybody in the exact same machinery, so it's all just going to come down to driver's skill, and I am going to be joining as many rounds as possible of that as I can. And yeah, like you said, we have VIR first, and our three. I think we have a really good selection for paid tracks for this one. We have Hockenheim Ring in round 3, and then in round 5 we have Algarve, Portimao, and in round 6 it's Road America. So yeah, just a really great track selection here for this one, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. We will still have to deal with springy suspensions, but that's the name of the game.
Yeah, and as you said before, the racing action is not over yet, but we do have to close off this Simufur ACC GT3 series, and what a way to wrap it up. Anyways, I'm Suzuka alongside Kady, and behind the scenes of the camera work is Paliku'i, and we would like to thank you for watching this video. And don't forget to check Simufur on our social medias, check our Discord, and especially get our merch.
All right, good night, everyone.
Good night.